So I saw a stat that 67% of jobless workers get more in unemployment than they earned,
Oh man.
which means that economies are reopening, businesses are reopening, they're calling back those workers, and those workers are going, nah, I'm good. No thanks.
Yeah, I witnessed this. This was years ago in Las Vegas, where there's these seasonal jobs. You know this, and people would work mostly for the spring to end of fall, and then the winter gets very
Yeah,
quiet.
they'd go in the clubs, and
Yeah.
they'd make bank, like more than the average
Yep.
person makes in an entire year.
And then they wouldn't have a job. And you could try to find another job, and there were opportunities for jobs in Las Vegas. It's a service town. There's tons of things.
You could go bartend for some amount of money.
Yes, yes. But everyone in the club scene knew that part of their year was just filing for unemployment, not even looking for a job.
And doing nothing.
Doing
Just
nothing.
doing whatever they want with their day.
And sometimes you have to fake like you're looking for a job, and I don't know that anyone even followed through with that.
I doubt
Would just make up a place that they were going to. So I saw this abuse occurring at a small scale.
Yeah, these people were making over six figures
Yeah.
a year, working part of the year, and then still collecting unemployment.
Yes, and the incentives are powerful. That's the thing. Like you can control a system by structuring incentives, and I can't even begrudge anyone who goes, okay, so you're telling me I could go to work 8 hours a day at this thing that I hate with no prospect for moving up or over or learning anything, or I could stay home and get a check. And by the way, a lot of people that I know have done the same, so I don't even feel this like social pressure to go in and contribute.
Yeah.
Also, the stock market hasn't moved. The economy doesn't seem to need productivity.
Yeah.
Like, of course I'm going to stay home.
So I read something interesting today. I've been very interested in economics recently.
Yeah.
As I watch like unemployment skyrocket.
Well, it also went down a little bit, right?
GDP plummeting.
Yeah.
And yet the stock market going up. I'm like, what's going on here? And so I was reading something which was basically making a very interesting argument for universal income. The idea that everyone should just get a check. And normally what happens is people that are labeled as socialists or communists are in favor of that. Capitalists, more conservative people are against it. This article was arguing actually what you could do is just get rid of Social Security, get rid of Medicaid, get rid of a lot of the stuff that our money does go to, give everybody some amount of money and go, this is enough money to live off of. We're positive. And you just get this regardless. It's not like the rich don't, or it's just like, here it is. Now you all have enough that should cover food, rent, healthcare, whatever. If you misallocate this, figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's actually a pretty, I don't know, I haven't run the numbers, but it's a pretty interesting argument if it's true that you could lower taxes while writing checks by just getting rid of everything else and saying, to some extent, be an autonomous actor.
Interesting.
Choose what to do with this.
So I can't make heads or tails of the economic part of it because I have no idea. But so Sam Harris put out a tweet saying you should read the Unabomber's manifesto. I was like, all right. So I started reading the Unabomber manifesto, and it talks
Is
about
that all Sam Harris's tweet said?
Yeah, he's like,
Literally he just said, hey, I'm Sam Harris. You should read the Unabomber manifesto.
It was something to that effect.
It's a bold tweet.
But it talks, and it's not just that, but there's this general idea. I'm wondering if we're solving the right problem in a lot of what's happening right now, or if we've even identified the problem. So what you've implicitly said is that the problem is that people don't have money, and that's part of the problem, right? People need money, but what the Unabomber says. It's
So we're learning from him now.
such a weird thing to say.
You should have learned his name before the podcast.
Ted Kaczynski.
There you go. What Ted says.
What Ted says, and obviously not to be taken everything that Ted says as 100%, but and I found this in other places and experienced it, is that if what he calls the like sort of this, I forget the name, the success loop, the ability to have a goal, set a goal, struggle for it, and achieve it, is a fundamental part of what it means to be a human. And technology interferes with that such to the degree that you get basically two classes. Most people used to be able, according to him, and I disagree, to struggle to survive, and that was it. And because of that, you had very little suicide, very little deaths of despair, if you will.
Sure, you would just die because you could.
You would die because of
die
a
'cause
war
life would
or
kill you,
because
yeah.
life would kill you.
Yeah.
And now,
can I give a quick for people
Sure.
who are saying, oh, I don't think that that's necessarily true. What matters more is the amount of food you have access to and stuff like that. You see this when someone has $5 billion and loses $4 billion in the stock market and kills themselves,
Yes.
which happens all the time. Well, not all the time because it's not that many billion times, but like consistently that will occur where people take their happiness and they use yesterday's like where they were yesterday in terms of status and wealth and women and whatever to determine how happy they are today.
Yeah.
Which is to say that when you were completely broke writing blog posts while sleeping on my floor, you were stoked because a blog post would get 10 readers or one book sale for $10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember we literally celebrated when we made our first $10.
Yes.
Whereas now, if we were to make a video
with an additional $10,
yeah, and it were to get, it'd be the worst performing video of the last 2 months, I would feel badly about its performance, no matter what its performance was. If we just did a bunch of videos that went viral in a row and then released an average video, it would feel like a failure, right? So that's what you're talking about, is this idea that we're not wired to actually to make our happiness about our circumstances so much as about how we feel about ourselves and our ability to achieve and be fulfilled.
Sure, yeah. And I think, and he might frame it a bit differently, but I think that's just as fair way to put it. The idea that simply having your material needs met for you will not make you happy, satisfied with society, and nonviolent. that while obviously we need to tend to material needs, and I absolutely believe that there's room for some redistribution from the very, very top of people who have so much material good to the people who don't.
Yeah, and I would define that as anyone who has more money than me is the top, and then I'm the start of who should get more money, and then everyone less than me should also get more money. Yes. I think everyone can agree with that definition.
Yes, I think that's a good one. Wherever you're at this year is the cutoff.
Yeah, we should give some buffer for growth too,
actually. So it's just interesting because as I see, like, what problems are we solving? I'm concerned that we are misframing the problems in a number of things that are going out today. We talked last week, and are we gonna have a call with someone today? Is that happening?
No. So go ahead, Justin.
Yes. So
we are all over the place, by the way. We haven't finished a single thought. Go ahead.
Great.
Yeah. So nobody ended up leaving their contact information.
Okay.
But if you want to call in and you consider yourself someone who is open to conversation about the Black Lives Matter movement right now, especially if you're part of that community, as in like a Black American, then feel free to leave your Skype ID or even your FaceTime number if you want in the Google Docs in the
description.
In the description, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And to be clear, anybody who wants to talk about anything can put their info in, and if we think it's an interesting topic, we'll have you call in. We just got some comments on the last podcast.
Yeah, super polite disagreement, which
it
I
was
think
great.
is amazing.
They're just like, hey, you're two white guys. Maybe have somebody who's not a white guy come on and talk about this movement. It's like, okay. So I wrote back to a couple people in the comments, but then they didn't give me their contact information.
Yeah.
I think people, I don't know, maybe get shy or didn't see it, whatever it is. So that said,
if you want in,
description on
you're
YouTube.
In. Yeah. So where were we? Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.